Hey guys, I'm Dave with Growing the Home Garden. It's time for another look around at my garden at the end of the month. It's July 2020, time for a little garden tour. So let's go take a look. So here are some of the results of our atomic orange corn, and I gotta say I am a little bit disappointed in its outcome. Maybe I was expecting something a little bigger, but these are smaller cobs. They look like they're at most 6 inches. And some of them came out much smaller than that. We had very poor germination, or not germination, but pollination of the kernels. So whether that was weather conditions or our planting style or what, I don't know for sure. We might have planted them too densely, and that could have been part of the problem. Definitely is a consideration, because you probably need a little bit of airflow to spread it around on the inside of everything. But anyway, let me open up one of these so you can see what they look like. So here's what the interior, what the corn kernels actually look like. They are a nice, bright, or really a dark reddish orange color. They look really good, but you can tell, we've got some spots where those didn't get germinated or pollinated. I keep saying germinated for some reason, but you can see those areas there where the silk did not actually get any pollen on it, and so that the kernels did not form. So that's a little bit about our atomic orange corn. We've got some cobs here. There were none that we received that had 2 cobs on them. Most of the time you can count on corn having at least, about 1 or 2 cobs on a stalk, and here we pretty much only got 1 per stalk, if even that. So, all in all, it was fun to try. It's a neat corn. We may go with a different corn next year and just see what we can do with it. We'll definitely save some seeds and maybe plant these out one more time, see if we can do something better, maybe change our system and how we planted them. We probably planted them too close. I think that was our #1 issue. So we just got done shucking the corn that we grew this year, and you'll notice that there's quite a bit of variation in quality and kernels. We planted a second variety of corn in there, but they didn't actually germinate, and so I think perhaps that my kids may have interplanted a few of them with the atomic orange corn, which might have been ones like this. But even within the atomic orange corn, there's some inconsistencies. I mean, that's a really nice color. We've got some spots there that did not get pollinated, and a couple kernels that didn't form right. Got a little different coloration on that one, and again some kernels that did not get pollinated. We've had a little bit of a fungus issue coming on one end of them. We'll cut those off and use the good kernels off of these. But you'll look at the just different colors that came out of it. I'm not 100% certain that there wasn't an extra seed in the mix that didn't belong here, because there's quite a few of these other ones that showed up that were a different color from the atomic orange. All in all, we got about 30 to 35 cobs that formed, and we lost probably a good 5 or 6 of those cobs just because they were of not very great quality, or they may have had some rot in. Stuff that's worse than that. That there would just cut off and cut around and eat the rest of it. So I'm curious how they'll taste. We'll save a couple of these and save the seed, because we did not do any different varieties, or so I thought. But we'll save some of the seeds so we can plant again next year, because we didn't intend to cross-pollinate it with anything. And we'll see what happens. I'm not sure about the taste on these. We've never had them before, so this will be our first time. And with a family of 7 like we have, I don't think these are going to last very long. So this might be one meal. Seems like a lot of work with corn for just a small meal, but you know what? It's good, so that's why you do it. So here is one of our Paul Robeson tomatoes. You can see that we've definitely seen quite a bit of damage here from blight and things, fungal diseases, but it's still producing some pretty decent tomatoes. So I would tell you not to give up on anything too quickly. Go ahead and try to tough it out. And I've been trying to pick my tomatoes before they are perfectly ripe, give them a little time indoors. And the reason for that is just due to the pest pressure outdoors. I keep getting caterpillars, and you'll notice, it's not the most perfect tomato. There's a little spot there where there could be an issue, but I have had whole tomatoes that are completely devoured just because I didn't see them in time, and they've like put a hole through it, and then there's caterpillars. I had one with maggots all in, and that's pretty gross. You don't want to even eat one of those, so you get rid of those tomatoes. But we're still getting quite a bit of tomato produce. Check out those. Those look really good. And that's the Paul Robeson. It's got a lot of green ones kind of going, so we should do pretty well on those. We've had a lot of tomatoes this year, and it's been really good. Now, if you notice on this plant, there's a little bit of leaf curl going on. That's nothing major. Just pretty much ignore it and don't worry about it. That's a Woodle Orange Tomato plant, which is not being nearly as productive as I had hoped this year, unfortunately. Yesterday we went through and we cleaned out the potato bed. I have not harvested the potatoes yet. I just kind of cleaned out the weeds and cleared out the top area of the potato plants. We actually, in doing so, pulled up enough potatoes to serve the whole family for dinner and have some extra potatoes left over. So we've got to go through this bed and take out what potatoes are currently in here, and then we'll harvest those, store them, do what we want to do with those potatoes, and then plant something new in this garden bed. I'm thinking that this one will probably be a greens bed for the fall. One of the projects I did with the bamboo this year was a bamboo trellis, and it's in a circular raised bed that we've made from landscaping stone, which gives it a little height. But if you can see here, I really made this too tall because I've got flowers up there. My wife said, "How are you going to pick the beans up there?" I guess I'm going to get a ladder. But anyway, next year I will note not to make it quite as high or to cut it back a little bit. But I think what's actually going to happen is a lot of the vine is going to hang down, and as the weight of the beans starts to form on those vines, that's going to hang down far enough at least for me to pick them and harvest them. I'm looking forward to it. I think I've got a couple types here. I think I've got the Kentucky pole bean, Kentucky Wonder I guess is what it is, and then a purple hull or a purple pole bean. The purple ones, they do fade to green when you cook them, so they kind of treat them exactly the same way. But I'm looking forward to that. We have not gotten any beans yet, mostly because we've had some bad seed harvest. The seeds that we've put in have not really germinated anything. But actually, right up there, we are starting to get some nice beans forming right there. So that's probably about the right size to actually pick those. The pepper bed is doing amazing. We've got a ton of jalapenos right there. Another kind of jalapeno right here. It's just doing really well. We're also getting some Tabasco peppers coming in there. We've got a sweet pepper. You can see them ripening up here. That's a really large style of pepper right there. I believe that was seed that I saved from years ago and used it again this year. You can see here some of these peppers are looking really nice. Those are hot. And those have got some heat to them, and that's fun. We'll use those peppers in probably some salsa and some things like that here very soon. At the end of the season, I'll take all the peppers that we have left over, all these hot peppers, Tabasco, we'll dry them, and then we'll grind them all up and put them into a hot pepper chili powder that we'll use over the winter for tortilla soups and all kinds of fun stuff. At this point in the season, I think it's time for our squash plant to go. I am starting to see some damage from the squash vine borer, which most of the time it's just a matter of time before it gets to us. But we've kept it at bay for a very long time, and it's produced a lot of squash for us. So I've been pretty happy with this one plant all season. So we're going to cut it back. There's actually another squash area growing over there, which I might be able to cover with some soil and root and maybe get some more production on that side of things. But over here on this end, you can see where it is broken on these stems and where there's like damage down in here. And I bet if I were to go and cut open that stem area, I'd probably have worms in there. And if they're not in there now, then they were in there at one point. You can just see how that damage looks. And if you do see that, that's probably the squash vine borer. You can cut them out if you want and try to remove them and then close it back up and then maybe cover with soil to create some roots. But most of the time, I'm kind of tired of squash at this point. We've had so many, and it's time to change over the bed to something new. Another reason I'm not so concerned about that squash is I've got this squash over here. The Trombetta squash has just been prolific. I've had quite a few of them. We ate some more for dinner last night too, where we kind of fried them up in the oven and with a little bit of breading on them, and it was real tasty. So it is producing so well. We have so many squash that our family can't really eat them all. I'm not really concerned about the yellow squash at all. I'm going to step across this bed, which I probably shouldn't do, but I mean, just check this out. Look at those squash, and that is a big head on that one. Now you can harvest this one and use it for pretty much anything you use a yellow squash for, which is why I'm not really concerned about it. And it is growing like crazy. Check that out. Got a melon growing right here, and I haven't been all the way through. I know we're starting to see some watermelons appearing, so I'm really excited to see what we're going to get off of that. Don't have too many of them, but you know, a few is good. We don't need a whole lot of them, but you know, watermelon, that's just one of those classic things that if you can grow it from the garden, it just feels great. So in and around these pepper plants, you can see our sweet potato vines growing. They are doing great. They are starting to get rangy. They want to go out here in the pathways, which is not a big deal. It's not, we don't have to keep them in the beds necessarily, but they need to get plenty of sunlight so they can produce those tubers. Once we get all these peppers harvested in the fall and they're done producing, then we'll start digging up the sweet potatoes underneath. So we've got these companion planted. I have not been watering, and you can see the peppers look pretty good. We've had a decent amount of rain, but there's no additional watering. I don't have any mulch down there. I'm just using the sweet potatoes as a ground cover to, you know, keep it nice and cool for the roots of the pepper plants and to prevent any kind of moisture loss. So that's just one thing you can do when you're planting your vegetable gardens, is to combine a couple of plants that have complementary properties that will help each other out. That's what companion planting is all about. And this is one of my favorite tomatoes. This is the Woodle Orange Tomato, and it just has a delicious taste. It's not too juicy, but it does have enough juice. It's perfect for slicing, putting on a hamburger, or eating on your sandwiches. So really love the Woodle Orange Tomato. Highly recommend you try that. It's not real high acid either, so it should be good for people who may want a lower acidity on their tomato plants. This was a Baker Creek discovery that we made many years ago, and it's one of those where I looked at it and I said, an orange tomato? And my wife said, yeah, let's give it a try. And of course, my wife was right. We should have tried it, and we did try it, and we've loved it. So the Woodle Orange Tomato, highly recommend that one. So if you check this out, this is our cilantro that has gone to seed. So now is the perfect time to start picking that. On a nice dry day, which today is actually not, you can just take these seeds and just gently harvest them into your hands and put them into a container. Or you can harvest them like this and just toss them in the garden where you want them to grow again. Cilantro is one of those that is just such a short-term crop that in the heat of summer it does not grow really well because it bolts so fast. So a best strategy for that is to just keep on planting it every couple of weeks, put out some more seed. And as you can see here, there's quite a bit of seed that we can use. You could also use that seed as coriander, the spice, and so you just put it into a grinder of some kind, and you can grind it onto things, and you get a little bit of that flavor of cilantro into your foods. So anyway, that's cilantro, and we just love having it around in our garden. I know a lot of folks don't really enjoy it, but you know, to each his own. And it's great for pollinators, which I've talked about before a few times. And here's just a quick checkup of the LantanaColeus cuttings that I did, sometime last week. You can see here with the hydrangeas, we're starting to get a little bit of a growth point there. The leaf's starting to come up. And I checked this lantana earlier this morning just because I was curious. And you can see a little bit of rooting there. So I'm going to be real careful when I put that back in. I don't want to pull those just yet. They need a little bit more time on those roots. I'm pretty sure the Coleus has rooted at this stage. There's a little bit of resistance. That one's pretty good. That one's pretty good as well. but you don't want to pull them out too early, just in case. You want to have as many roots as you can. So when in doubt, just give it a little bit more time. There's no hurry on them, unless you're trying to get them in before a certain time of the year. But on these, I think what I'll probably do is just preserve them as a house plant in the winter, and that way I have something I can start Coleus plants from next year. Here's an update on another plant I haven't really talked a whole lot about, but this is pawpaw. This is a pawpaw set of trees. I've got 3 of them growing in here from seed we collected on our land, and it's really a cool plant because it's in the magnolia family, and it's one of the only tropical fruits that is native to our region up here. Some weird facts about it, or interesting facts as you might believe, that the zebra swallowtail butterfly it uses the pawpaw trees as a host plant. And so if you see a zebra swallowtail butterfly, you may have pawpaws nearby. So that's actually how I found our pawpaw trees. I saw a zebra swallowtail and I went around looking for the pawpaw trees, which we had several, and that was very cool. We've only been able to eat a little bit of it. Last year we could not actually harvest them because something had beat us to it. Our timing was off because we're not actually on our property yet. Hopefully that's a project to come in the future. Building our new home. Anyway, but the pawpaw trees, I've got 3 of them here from seed. I've got a couple more from seed in the garden. Pawpaws need a cross-pollinator to grow, so you need to have a couple different ones from different clusters. They'd like to colonize, and so you want to have different colonies set up essentially. Now guys, here's another update to talk about. This time of year, our cherry trees always drop their leaves. Check that out, how bare that looks right now. Now they're beautiful trees in the spring, but here in the south, they are not especially well adapted to this type of climate. So when it gets hot and humid, you start to see a lot of leaf drop. And you'll notice here, in that leaf, you see some of those black spots there. A little bit of fungal issue here and there. We've had a ton of rain. So they will drop leaves, but they will do fine in the future. They come back every year, every spring. They're gorgeous trees with the flowers, and it's usually about late July and August here in Tennessee when we start to see some issues with the leaf drop on them. So it's nothing really significant. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. They are better suited to growing in cooler climate zones than what we are currently in, and they're just not happy with the humidity. And we can all kind of say that to some extent. It's not the heat, it's the humidity, isn't it? And here's a little update on a lavender that I did from cuttings a while back. It is looking fantastic. Check that out. And what I do is I keep on coming over here and I pinch back the tops every now and then, just pinching that off so that it spurs more growth down the rest of the stem, which makes it a bushier plant. Now I should probably come in here and go ahead and start taking some more cuttings of this one and help them to grow. The others around it aren't doing quite as nicely, like that one there and that one there. But my goal here is in this spot is to fill this little area up with a block of lavender. So it's doing pretty good so far. We've got a good start, and it cost me all of the $5 it was for that first lavender plant to have quite a few more of them. Crepe Myrtle trees are in bloom right now, and they just look simply amazing. Check that out. That is the same type as I made the cutting of from a couple of videos ago. But the Crepe Myrtle trees this time of year are just gorgeous. This one here, I don't know the name of it, but you can see those watermelon pink sort of blooms on it. It is as tall as the house is right now. And just a beautiful plant. Let's walk over here and check out. You can see the trunk of the tree, which is really nice. Please forgive the air conditioner unit noise, but just check this out right here. Beautiful. Now I need to come in here and there's a few branches I need to trim out. I also want to make sure that I get some of that stuff off the top of the roof area because we're getting a lot of leaves in the gutters. So I probably actually have this planted a little too close to the house. I'm about 6 feet away from the foundation, and I would probably recommend you go out at least another 3 feet from there if you're going to plant close to your home. This is a case of do as I say, not as I do. But Crepe Myrtle bark is really beautiful. Check this out, how it's peeling off here, and it leaves this mottled look behind it as it exfoliates. It's such a really cool tree. Really neat looking. But highly recommend crepe myrtles for planting in the south. And if you grow them like this, like a tree, instead of cutting them back like a shrub, they look really majestic. So hope you enjoy taking a look at that crepe myrtle there. That's just one of several we've got. This is one of our apple trees, and I believe it's a gala apple. But one of the big issues it gets is this kind of damage here, which is caused by a fungus. It's the one that causes cedar apple rust. And what's interesting about it is it actually starts on cedar trees in what you call a gall, and it's this kind of a brown ball looking thing. It looks sort of like a sea urchin. And then it starts spitting out spores, and then the spores come over and infect the plant and complete the life cycle over here. And in order to, in fact, you can take a look at that a little bit more on the back side of this leaf. In order to break the cycle, you have to use a fungicide. We have so many cedar trees here that it is impossible to actually prevent this without using some sort of spray. And it looked like for a little while we were going to get a few apples off of this, but then this, we didn't spray this year, and this kind of happened. So it's one thing you got to be careful about apple trees and fruit trees here in Tennessee in general. Now this is an interesting tree we have in our yard. This is Sassafras. Now what's cool about Sassafras is it has various different leaf shapes. You'll have one that's a single lobe, one right here that's like a trilobe, and then you'll have another type, I'm trying to find it here, if there is one. Sometimes it appears, sometimes it doesn't, but where it looks more like a mitten, where it will have two lobes. And Sassafras is a really neat tree to have around. In the fall it's got a bright reddish color, and we'll probably start to see some of the color change first. It tends to be one of the first ones to change colors around here. Sassafras likes to grow in colonies, so you'll have a cluster of them growing. And then the other interesting thing is that they were originally used to make root beer. Hey guys, I hope you've enjoyed this quick garden tour. Unfortunately, I have not been out in the garden as much as I really would have liked this year. This time of year, it hasn't been that bad temperature-wise. It hasn't been that bad weather-wise. It's been humid, yeah, but in July, the beginning of July, I actually came down with the virus that's going around. And so we've been quarantining ourselves at the house, and I just have not felt well enough to get out in the garden. So a lot of this extra growth and all the weeds and stuff just have not been managed as well as I would have liked. The good news is I'm past the contagious point. I'm feeling a lot better today, but I had it for 10 days and then I still felt terrible for another 2 weeks after. So it is definitely not something to be played around with. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it, but things are looking much better for me now. And I'm looking forward to catching some vitamin D from the sun out here and just enjoying the garden again and getting back out into doing some work in the yard. So anyway, I'm Dave from Growing the Home Garden. I really appreciate you watching this video, subscribing, and I hope you really liked it. If you did, hit the like button. So we'll catch you later.